Time Warner Cable's Local Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance. Glad you're with us today. Our guest is Bob Blumenfield. He's a member of the California State Assembly. And so I want to talk to you about a reform package that passed. I thought we'd be talking about pension reform. That did pass. We expected that to pass. What I never expected was workers' comp reform. I mean, it hasn't been on the horizon for months, and all of a sudden, it comes back. Yeah. What happened?
Although I should say, a lot of people didn't expect pension reform to pass either. And
in the end, I thought it would, but be that as it may.
We got a lot done at the end of this session. Pension reform, workers' comp, home mortgage foreclosure. It was an incredibly productive end of session. And this workers' comp thing, it wasn't on a lot of radars, but it was something that a lot of us were working very hard behind the scenes.
And let's talk about the competing challenges, because on the one hand, we had heard that those that were injured at work, especially those that were permanently disabled, were not getting the benefits they needed.
Right.
On the other hand, we know that premiums were going up, and in fact, in January, employer premiums were set to go up by 18%.
Right.
So you had these two competing interests. What did you do to bring those in line?
Yeah, and even just since 2010, workers' comp for businesses went up from $14 billion to $19 billion, completely unsustainable for California's economy and for small businesses.
Which is interesting because there was a reform package back in 2003 and 4 that had really reined in premiums, but for some reason they started to get out of control again.
It reined in, but it was so convoluted in the way that went. It was creating all this confusion and litigation, and that's really where the premiums were. Why the cost was rising so much, because there wasn't a simple way to get to, when you have an injured worker, to get them back on the job. It ended up months and months and months of litigation, and what ends up happening at the end, the person gets their claim filled, but all that time, the business is paying someone else time and a half.
So let's talk about what the reform does, because it is very specific. Tell us about it, sir.
Well, it both increases the amount for permanent disability and increases basic payout quite a bit, $870 million.
Right.
And then it saves, at the same time, it's able to save business about $1 billion. And the way that it does both of those things at the same time.
Yeah, it seems incongruous.
It seems incongruous, but when you simplify the system, you create efficiencies, you create savings that can be good for business and good for workers.
So what has been simplified? What exactly?
So the sort of the menu of things. So you get injured, let's say.
Right.
You're out and you have an elbow injury. Normally you'd get paid, let's say, $400, just for an example. On this new scale, you're probably going to be paid $800. But it's going to be very clear. It's not going to be something that gets litigated. They have this independent medical review board.
I understand.
So instead of going to the lawyers, it's going to a panel of doctors. And it's going to be decided, and decided quickly.
And the plaintiff's lawyers agree to this?
Even though at the end of the day, the two major stakeholders, the Chamber of Commerce and California Labor Federation, business and labor, came together historically. Folks that normally are oil and water, came together. In fact, I was with both of them just yesterday, and the governor. We signed this bill into law in a signing ceremony. Doesn't mean that folks, particularly folks who are involved in the litigation aspect of it.
If both sides are unhappy, that probably means it's a good bill. I mean, if both sides gave a little, it's
both
not
sides
a bad
gave,
thing.
and both sides were willing to be happy about it. The folks that aren't happy about it are the folks who are more involved in the litigation.
Right.
And in the end, when you have uncertainty, that does benefit some individuals, but as a system, it's better when things are more certain.
So how did this happen in our final moments?
There's a lot that goes on. People think that what happens in the legislature is just people voting every day, and they think that's the work of the legislature. The real work of the legislature gets done behind the scenes, and it's meetings, it's back and forth, it's meeting with stakeholders, and this was something a high priority of the governor,
no doubt,
and it was also a high priority for business and a high priority for labor, because both of them were getting squeezed on this.
His name is Bob Blumenfield, member of the California State Assembly. My name is Brad Pomerance. Thank you so much for watching Time Warner Cable's Local Edition.